Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Raymore City Council work session for Monday, June the 17th, 2024. As it is a work session, we just have several items on our agenda tonight, but the first of which is a joint session that we try to have annually with the Raymore Chamber of Commerce. And so welcome. Thank you for being here. Chamber board members, Melissa, thank you both for being here tonight. I think what we'd like to start off with is just kind of discuss the Chamber of Commerce's MOU with the City of Raymore and potential enhancements to that. Maybe if there are any comments or questions from members of the board, either the City Council or the Board of Directors for the Chamber, we would encourage that as well. So I'll turn to Mr. Manson, who's president this year of the board, and see if he'd like to make any opening comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members, what we'd like to do is identify some of the highlights and points that's consistent with the MOU between the city and the chamber. And what's happened is our executive director has kindly put together a document that can outline exactly how we work in partnership with the city. And basically, I'd like to have Melissa Ferrari explain that and go through the points with the city.
Okay.
All right?
All right, thank you. Nope, not yet, until you hit the button. Yeah. Turns
How about
green.
now?
There, you're good.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mayor, Mr. Feuerborn, and the City Council members for inviting us to come today so we can talk a little bit about what the Chamber of Commerce MOU has lined out for us to provide for the city, as well as the additional items that you may not be aware the Chamber provides the city. So thank you again for inviting us to come here today. I can honestly say that at the Chamber, we can relate to budgets. Much like the city, we are seriously understaffed for the number of members that we serve. Right now, we're in the 280 range of members. And typically, Chamber of Commerce should have one full-time staffer for every 100 members. We have 1.5, which I don't like to refer to Melissa as 0.5, but she is a 20-hour-a-week employee, so 1.5. So we're doing a lot with a little, and I think a city employee here can relate to that as well. With that, our current contract with the city states the chamber will provide an office, as it says here, for interested parties to contact us for the purpose of receiving objective information about the community. We have a phone number for those services. We employ personnel, Melissa and myself, for those services and those goals. Act as a confidential contact point to assist new and expanding businesses. And then further, the city also receives no less than 2 members on the Chamber Board of Directors. That includes the mayor or his designee, and one other at-large selection determined by the city. So that is what is outlined in the MOU, and to my knowledge, I've been here since early 2022. That has been provided all the years that the contract has been in place. As a nonprofit membership-based organization, we currently don't have sufficient membership numbers for our annual dues to satisfy all the costs of operating a physical office. So we continue to gain more members every year. We're actually at the largest number that we've ever had in chamber membership, so those are good, but the majority of our members are smaller in nature. So it's 5 employees or fewer, so they're at the lower rung of our membership dues. So we're always seeking ways to do more, as I mentioned before, with less. For example, 34 new members this year, great number of new members, but 22 of them are one-person businesses. So again, it's a little bit of a challenge at times. Clearly, the cost of doing business to stay up to date with technology and run a professional office, it continues to rise. We all know that. The way we can continue to cover our office expenses is that we rely on fundraisers. We have a wonderful golf tournament, 29th annual, coming up this year, so we rely on that in addition to the dues and in addition to other types of non-dues revenue, so we can go ahead and meet the costs that we have. I have compiled a list of the different things that the Chamber does and provides for the city, and if you'd like to review that, feel free. I can talk a really long time, too, so if anybody wants to interrupt me, I welcome you to do so. But you can see it's spelled out here. In addition to the MOU, we also, Melissa and myself both, provide assistance to the city in taking, routing, and researching calls and inquiries from the public. Oftentimes they're calling about their trash service. So we find out those kind of things. We find out the answers to these questions, and we try to deal with them inside the chamber office, get accurate information so as to not have to transfer things over to the city. So we're trying to always help out the city employees because we know that you have challenges here as well in staffing. Not only does this save the city time in responding, it avoids caller frustration at being sent elsewhere. It provides goodwill because we're providing the information at that first point of contact. We also provide kits of information to people that reach out to our office because they're interested in Raymore. They want to know about the amenities the city provides, about the school district. They want to know, why should we move to Raymore? Why should we consider it? And so we respond to that by mailing kits out to them. Of course, we refer for information on office space and business requirements for potential businesses. We forward them to economic development if necessary. We also do the complete coordination and publication of the Raymore Community Guide. That publication comes out every 2 years. That has important contact information for the city in it, talks about our amenities, what makes Raymore great. It also has information on our chamber members in it. This publication comes out every 2 years, and later this year we'll be starting the coordination for the 2025. We also have new resident packets that the city has become a wonderful partner with us, and actually about a year and a half ago we looked at that. We look at our costs and we try to find out, is this something that we should be spending money on? Does it make sense to spend money on this? Because we want to be good stewards with the funds that we do have. The new resident program was on the verge of being cut because of high postage costs. That was the primary reason. It was high postage costs. We were also finding that we would mail them out based on the list that we would get from the city clerk, I think it was, would provide us it was the water department, would provide us the list of names of new residents. And then we would spend almost $4 per packet sending those out, and we'd have at least 10 of 100 come back to us, at least. We were finding out it was the builders that were turning on water. They weren't actually getting the new residents. So fortunately, we talked, David, Mr. Feuerborn, we talked about what could we do to make sure these get in the hands of new residents. And now the water department actually distributes those. It has saved us money. It has retained memberships because we found out some of our members are actually with us because of this marketing program. And doing that has also built goodwill for the city too. I say that because when they walk in, yeah, you're getting your water turned on, but you're also getting a welcome packet, goodwill from the city that those people are getting. So I feel really proud that the city was able to help us keep that program going. It provides some non-dues revenue for us, fortunately, and then again, something very, very handy for your new residents. Melissa and I, we feel like we're a very positive public relations team. We are the cheerleaders for the chamber. Yes, the chamber, but also for the city. We try to tell everybody about all the positive things that the city has going on, whether it be events or the wonderful school district that kids can take part in, all the different programs that the city council is putting out there. So we try to give the positive spin on that the city council would want us to. We invested, too, to enhance our website. Just a few months ago we did this. We now offer opportunities for the city to include information on news and accomplishments on that. That did not exist before. The website is much more effective and user-friendly for our members' use, the city's use, and any interested parties can come and navigate and find information. This year, we also introduced an inclusive calendar of all events that City Hall and all departments can use to promote meetings, events, and matters of importance to residents. This site allows all our members to place information in one comprehensive location that's convenient. We can also offer the city promotional recognition on our website now. That's something that we couldn't do before, so if you choose to take part in it, that's something that you might want to consider in the future moving forward. We also coordinate all facets of welcoming the new businesses here through ribbon cuttings. If they are a member, they are eligible for a ribbon cutting. I would like to say, and I think Melissa could attest to this, we have an excellent working relationship with employees of the city. We are very, very fortunate to have been able to work with David Gress and Jordan Lee in particular in doing events, because they are on our events committee. With them being on the board of directors, we're just very fortunate to have these young professionals with great energy, great ideas, and enthusiasm working with us. We want to be a positive partner for future opportunities. So specifically, the World Cup in 2026 is going to affect us, even in Raymore, even 2 hours away. It's going to affect us. So we want to be a partner to the city in preparing for that particular event. Additionally, we are open to working with you all and coordinating future events for residents. So community festivals that the city may not have the resources to take care of. Our board would definitely be open to considering that. We coordinate the annual candidate forum for the school district and city council candidates. Due to a lack of contested races and with the approval of the candidates, this was the first year that we did not have that event scheduled. I also believe that we are a necessary resource to continue to attract new businesses, organizations, and residents. You know, we proudly tout the growth of this city. I know everybody has heard how great Raymore is as far as growth is concerned. That's a source of pride, not just for the city council, but also for us at the chamber. We're very proud of that fact, but with that, a strong chamber of commerce is exceptionally valuable to continue to grow not just residents, but also the business community. And finally, marketing assistance. We push out that stuff on our social media. So when the park department is showing the shelters that people can rent, we push that information out. When you have an event, when something exciting is happening, we positively promote for you, just like we do all our members. So with that said, I hope the city will consider the points and find that our partnership is a valuable resource. I'd like to see if we can continue the MOU, if that's possible. We would love to continue to be a partner to you as you have been for us.
Thank you,
So let me
Melissa.
know.
Anybody have any questions for Melissa or any of the members of the board at this time? Yes, Mr. Holman.
So, Ms. Ferrari, great overview. Really appreciate that. I think you made very salient points there. That was mostly operational. You've been in the position for about 2 to 3 years, am I right? Mm-hmm. By all accounts, done a very good job. I'd ask for you now just to give us a little bit more from perhaps the 10,000-foot view, all right? So what direction do you see and what challenges do you see? You gave us a lot of the operational challenges you're facing now. What operational challenges and changes do you see in the next, say, 3 to 5? I would guess at most chambers, one of the biggest concerns of members would be lack of available entry-level workforce, hard to find people, right? That's been a problem across America since at least the beginning of COVID and certainly after. Our chamber is slightly different in makeup. A number of the boards are from non-traditional businesses, so that may not be as big of a concern here. But if so, is that an initiative or a direction you think that the chamber and the city should partner together to go towards to try and make some impact on in the future? Those kinds of things, if you would.
I think anything that challenges our members is something that the board should be concerned about. So yes, if that is something that our members say we are having trouble finding qualified staff for this, it's something that we could bring to the board of directors and they would absolutely entertain different avenues that we could take to help them. Because we're here to serve our chamber members. That's primarily what we're here. But beyond that, our mission is to enhance the economic development and quality of life for our residents. And if that's what we need to do, we will absolutely do that.
So Melissa, Bill, I think there's a follow-up to what Mr. Holman was saying is that, right now we're a fairly small board, and the majority of the makeup is someone from either public service or a nonprofit industry. Should we have more of a business person interest on the board as far as members from local businesses as part of the majority makeup of the board in order to represent the community better from a business
So
perspective?
for the board of directors, that's
Right.
what you're talking
Yep.
about?
Yep.
Well, it comes down to, in many cases, who is interested in serving, who will take the time to serve, who can get away, because what, Mr. Holman, that's what you said, it's struggling to find people to do the job. So can those members take time away from their business to come serve on the board? That's the challenge that we find with our board of directors. I feel very good about the quality of board of directors that we have, and the interest level of all of them. But yeah, that's continually a challenge. We don't want to have 10 realtors on the board, right? We don't want to have, go ahead. No, I'm not picking
Tom
on
might disagree with you
Tom.
there.
I'm not picking on Tom, but absolutely, we want a good variety of.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Tom. We want a good variety of people on our board of directors. So I agree with you
No, I
there, Mayor.
understand.
It's just finding them.
Okay. If there had been any thought to, since we've grown, since I've been on the board, we've grown about 100 members over the years. And so it was, and that I've been on the board 8 years. So that's why I was just kind of curious if you thought maybe the makeup could grow to have a better representation from the business community. But I know, like you say, it's hard to get
Yeah.
people to
Exactly.
break away from their business in order to participate. It is hard.
Exactly. Some smaller chambers of commerce have larger boards of directors. I don't know that it's necessary, but again, it's the challenge in finding interested and available people that will be quality board members that will do more than just show up to a meeting once a month.
Yeah. And to let the council know, Jordan is my designee, so when I can't be at the meeting, she goes to those meetings. And when I'm there at the meetings, she comes just to listen and participate for the continuity purposes. So she does a great job tag teaming it with David to be at those board meetings, a great representative for us over there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that you do want a board that's representative of the business community as much as possible. And you do want a board that's, since it's a volunteer board, you certainly want some people that are willing to participate and dedicate time to it, because it is important. So we do try to recruit where we can, when possible, anybody, and we're always looking for people to join. It's an open, when we open it up for, when we solicit for people to join for various positions, we go through that. We certainly have, I believe we do have a required document that they have to fill out showing exactly what their intentions are or how they intend to serve, what they want, how we want to serve. I didn't get enough coffee today. The thing is, the chamber's always looking to continue its management of its oversight of the chamber and have continuity to it so it's consistent, so that we can grow, and that we want these businesses to succeed, and we want them to be part of it to succeed. So, yes, we do want businesses involved. The present, the way it's the chamber is now, or I should say the board is now, still works as a very efficient mechanism for management, and I think it does an excellent job. And the whole point of it is to make our executive director job easier so that she can succeed. And with that kind of success, I hope the chamber does.
So as a follow-up to that, when we're talking about the MOU, at your places here is something that Mr. Gress put together for Mr. Fearborn and myself, and I think it's a pretty good overview of how the city works hand in glove with the Chamber of Commerce. Toward the bottom of the page, on the front there, and David, I don't want to steal your thunder, but just to highlight those 4 bulleted points might be considered by the board to be included in the MOU to expand our partnership in that fashion. I know this is the first time you guys are maybe seeing this, but if you could have an opportunity to review that and take a look at it, and maybe I'll give David an opportunity to speak to it if you'd like, David.
Appreciate that. Yeah. As the council and the board can see in the letter that we provided, we try to highlight the things that a little bit above and beyond the MOU that the board has done and Melissa have done in terms of assisting Jordan and I with what we call business and retention visits, getting some of the, I'll call it intel from the business community that we don't typically have the opportunity to get. The chamber's really good about giving us that information so that if we need to go visit with the business and have more conversations with them, we can do that. And they've been very good about increasing just the overall presence on social media since Melissa took over here a couple of years ago. But at the bottom, as I mentioned in the kind of narrative, the chamber has tried to make great strides in trying to reinvent itself from the things that we have always done in the past as a chamber and trying to figure out what else could we be doing for the businesses or for the members or for the city in these cases that would just continue to bring more value to what it is that they do. So I mentioned, Melissa mentioned the community guide, which is one of the larger documents that we put together every other year that has the first thing that new residents see when they come into the community, businesses that they can patronize. And one thing that we've done recently as a city is we have a lot of new facilities that we didn't have 3, 4, 5 years ago with Centerview and the RAC, different park facilities and amenities that we've added. I know one thing that we've talked about in the past is how those community guide spots are marketed and sold. And at least the community guides that I've seen when you open those, it is the front and back cover is the community, meaning the chamber and the city and the things that each of those entities offers. And everything in between is all the fun things about the chamber, the events, the members, the businesses that make it up. And so the first bullet point there is maybe just a conversation with the board and the council about, as part of the MOU, what does that mean for those larger publications that the chamber sends out year-round to increase the presence of the city and the facilities that we bring to the community. The continued involvement in ribbon cuttings, one thing that Melissa mentioned is that they do take on every responsibility for chamber members, or in most cases, prospective chamber members that are looking to join the chamber as a new business. And Jordan and I and yourself and the council members usually just kind of show up and attend and enjoy the event. One thing that we try to do is if they're not a chamber member, we try and offer, hey, the chamber will take care of all of this if you join the chamber, and here's all the great things about it. In some cases, businesses just choose not to join the chamber, in which case Jordan and I typically try and step in a little bit more and put something together for them and still invite the chamber to kind of show what the benefit is if they do decide to join. And so I think maybe rethinking that of how we can really, really convince every business that they want to be part of the chamber, to try and rethink that a little bit. Increased support for city development projects. Most of what Jordan and I do on the front end of a project is usually fairly confidential. And so we really don't share a lot of information outside of her office or mine until it can be shared with the council or other entities. But rethinking a process there of how the chamber could get involved to help us with business attraction and retention beyond what they already do, I think is worthy of discussion out of that. And then lastly, the just increased support for our community events and programs. The city puts on a lot of programs through our communications office. We had several concerts on Friday, a couple of parks events on Friday. Saturday we had the Chamber Expo. So I think both groups are doing a lot of events kind of by themselves, and I think there's an opportunity to share in some of the resources and the planning and the staff time that it takes to run those events. Whether that's the chamber taking certain events for the year and the city taking others. But those were 4 points over the last several years that I've had the chance to serve with the chamber. Those are things that as we continue to grow, our needs aren't the same as they were in 2017 and even last year. So hopefully that came across in our letter here, but if there's any questions on that, I can certainly answer that as well.
Okay, thank you, David. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, sir. every year going into budget time, we always like to review all of our contracts and everything that we're going through. When Mr. Gress and the mayor and I were kind of looking at this year, you have 2 pages of kind of formalized stuff that the chamber does here. Mr. Gress has provided up above 5 bullet points of different things that the chamber does for us within this contract that aren't mentioned in the MOU, and they're not delineated in the MOU. I think moving forward, they should be, because, and I'm going to put this much more flippantly than I should, but under the last page of the council's packet, everybody's packet, we actually have the current scope of services and the contract that we have. And of the 4 items that we list on here, the chamber has to provide an office, a phone number, and employees to be in the office. And those are 3 of the 4 things that and I think that greatly diminishes the extent of what is being done in the partnership within this MOU that we have with the chamber. So if we could ask everybody to indulge us to take a couple of months here to actually, we want them still to be somewhat broad stroke. If there's no candidates running and we don't have a candidate form, we wouldn't want to be listing that thing out in that same manner. But here are the other things, as far as throughput is concerned, that we would all like to see in this MOU, so the chamber is recognized for everything that you are doing rather than kind of the skimpy language that's currently in it. And the council knows what's being provided. If a new council member came on right now and took a look at this and didn't understand the history, that we could suffer under what do they really give us? Well, they really give us a lot. We just don't talk about it here. So we were kind of hoping to get to a point tonight where we could, maybe a couple of the staff members could work with Melissa to beef up this MOU to what's actually being done here and make it a better reflection of that.
I like it. Yeah, I like it a lot. Anybody have any comments regarding that? Melissa, any issues with that?
No, I think that's a very good idea, to spell it out. So, as you said, a new council member will be, it's not just an office across the street that
Yeah.
we're giving you, with some people that work in it, and you can call us at any time. Yeah, so yeah, spell it out. And frankly, today versus 2017, there's a lot more that the chamber does and can offer the city that did not exist in 2017. So I do think it's a good idea to look at that again and write something else up.
Okay. Everybody good with that? Yes. Mr. Mills?
You know, one thing, we kind of talked about the coordination of working together, and I think Melissa mentioned that the chamber would be interested in getting involved in more city things. But, and again, to what Mr. Fairborn mentioned, I think what we received here tonight was excellent. I mean, showing all this. What would be the possibility, again, like when we do our Raymore review or something, putting something like that in the Raymore review to show, again, the value that the chamber brings to the city. At the same time, we're asking the chamber in their welcome packets and their booklets to bring more value of what the city, you know, promote the city. So I think that would be a very good thing to do. And if anybody would ever question the investment that the city makes in the chamber, you know, it's right there in that Raymore review every year.
Okay, good input. Any other board members have any input at this time? Bill, any last words? We move on.
Any last words?
Yeah. Well, you're the president.
I didn't get a meal to go with it. Okay. The chamber, you know, I really feel that the chamber tries its best and is constantly evolving. I mean, the board definitely tries to work to come up with new ideas and concepts to encourage business growth and the partnership with it. And anything that we can do with business benefits the city, because the more we can bring in and the more we can encourage growth and help these businesses grow, the more the city will benefit from it. And we don't always have all the answers, but we're constantly seeking them. And we definitely like input. We never, I can say this, we'll never get enough input to satisfy that we have done our best. Because there's always that one extra step we can go, and we need to, and we're constantly trying to find that one. And I found that in all the years I've been a volunteer member on various boards, the city has always been something that I felt was, it's very close because it's a home for me, and this city means a lot. I've put my roots down here. Of course, I've been uprooted a number of times, but it's still an important place to grow, and it has a lot to give. And the people here should benefit from it. And any partnership that we can develop that can make that happen needs to be done.
I would agree. Melissa, I have one last question for you I forgot to ask. I said, so what can the city do at this point, given everything we've kind of thrown out here right now? What can the city do to assist the chamber better going forward?
I think keep doing what you're doing. Keep having Jordan and David there. They are wonderful assets to the
there.
chamber.
I know,
And I'm,
Thanks, Melissa.
Mayor,
I
you're
get the
always
message.
welcome.
But apparently, sir, you have enough time.
You can come anytime you want, Mayor. But the city staffers we've worked with, and they're the ones that we work with most on a daily basis, calling, talking, having them as part of our committees. It's just been great to have that city involvement. They're not necessarily pushing agenda. What they're trying to do is do what's best for the citizens, and that shows in everything they do. The expo that we had this weekend, we took that on because the city department asked us to work with them, and the staff person left, and the chamber was left to deal with everything that meant. And fortunately, Jordan and David were there. They stepped up and they helped us pull that event off. So those kind of things, just having active, invested employees to partner with the chamber, I think is exactly what we need to continue.
Okay.
I'm going to have to give kudos to the Parks Department too, though.
Absolutely.
Well, that's gratuitous. You're on the board.
Well,
They didn't know, and I wasn't doing that. They were stuck too because they had an employee that was tasked with doing it that left. And of course, as I mentioned at the front of this, we're all short-staffed, so.
I would agree. Any final thoughts from council members? Okay. Well, thank you all for being here this evening, and I
you.
appreciate your input. Great review of everything, Melissa. Great job on that.
Yeah, and thank you, board members that came tonight. I appreciate your support too.
All right, thanks.
and thank you,
See you guys.
council members.
I brought a visual aid. It's the packet, if anybody wanted to see the packet. I didn't use my
There you go. Okay, as a follow-up to our last meeting, okay, we're all good. As a follow-up to our last meeting, the staff did put together, which was just passed out by Mr. Zur, a compensation, just kind of overview of 12 of the, including us, organizations that we compared ourselves to under the compensation study plan. You can see the differences in the compensation for mayor and council members, and how other compensation comes into play in several of those communities. But thought I'd provide that just for your knowledge, so you can have further discussion on it. And didn't know if there was any further discussion anybody wanted to do, or just move on and take it up next May? Once you take a look at it there for a minute, and kind of go over it if it's your first opportunity to review it. Anyone wish to open a conversation? Yes. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing that I think might be interesting in the future, not that I'm wanting anyone to do any extra work now, but population on the list would be good to like see per capita, how many, a council member has how many, people they're representing, a mayor has how many people they're representing. And, because obviously, some of these cities are much larger than our city. And so it would be a harder job and should be a higher wage compensation package. But that's always interesting, because last week we talked about some things, and a key was per capita. When we look at numbers, it's, since we grow constantly, we have to constantly look at that.
Okay. Yes.
Is there a cost associated to having the retirement plan? I view what we're doing here as not long-term retirement planning. No one should be in politics for life. That's a problem we have across America. Is there a cost for us to be involved in that plan versus if we didn't contribute to that, that would go maybe more to a monthly salary versus contribution, or is that required?
Yeah, the city council thought there are two different splits in loggers. There's the general population, which sounds like prison, and then there's the police department. And each of those groups there's a percentage that goes to loggers of your gross salary. Actually, you know that it's us in another city. Loggers didn't actually allow elected officials to be in. And then several years ago, they changed that because by not offering it, they were a little bit worried they were going to get themselves into a legal quagmire. Because in the world of loggers, you are considered employees. And so by not offering it to a group, but offering it to the rest, even though it's up to the council whether they want to be in there or not, I think we are covering ourselves on a potential future liability.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
I may be totally incorrect. I'd have to look through my folder, but I thought when I filled out all my stuff with HR, I had an option to not take loggers, and I thought I had marked it. There was something I had an option to
Not
decline.
that particular one, sir. No, loggers is
Okay.
mandatory.
Okay, there was
Yeah,
something I had.
We can't discriminate in
okay,
a group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Holman.
I'm going to say the same thing I said for the past 2 years. This basically just confirms what I've already said. I think for cities of like size and population, I think our mayor position is underpaid. I think the council's pay is probably right in line with what it should be, but I still think that the mayor is probably underpaid by about a third. I think we probably ought to go to, it's $1,000 a month right now, right? And I think we ought to be closer to $1,500 a month. A couple of them are a little bit lower, but if you look across, for example, Raytown, who's landlocked and doesn't have near the growth that we do or some of the others, they make up some of that difference in a car allowance, which I know you use your vehicle frequently for different events and things like that. And so that brings them well above what we're compensating the mayoral position for right now. So I would be in favor of a vote to entertain raising the mayoral compensation to $1,500 a month.
I think at this point, we're kind of looking for a consensus from the group. If there's someone that feels that that's not an appropriate way to go, they can voice their opinion on it, or the consensus might be to go ahead and have it proposed to the group and just take a vote on it. Mr. Delgado.
And I'll repeat what I've said year after year as well. While right now we have a mayor who does an amazing job and shows up every day, day in, day out, works so hard for the city, there isn't anything that requires that our mayor does those things. So every year when we talk about this, that's my comeback, is until we get something that says our next mayor is required to do those things that this mayor does, then I disagree, because we've had mayors in the past who don't show up like our current mayor, and I would not like seeing someone paid for this job when they're doing a different job. And the requirements as written now don't define what they have to do to get that pay.
Well, as I outlined to you in my email, the responsibilities have somewhat changed over the last 8 years, in as much as where there was somewhat of an expectation for my participation, there's now a demand that I participate in many of those boards and commissions that I'm on now. And it's a reliance on that would be going forward, whether I was in the seat or not. And that was the only difference I could see from 8 years ago, when those were kind of optional participation type settings, whereas they're really, now that all the mayors are going to those things and there's an expectation of me being there, some of which I chair, that it has changed, it's morphed a little bit. And I think that demand would be on any mayor, even after I'm gone, that would have to participate in that fashion. Whether or not it's actually ordained to be that or not, there is that expectation. We've grown so much in the last 8-10 years that we become kind of part of that overall regional growth as well, whereas we might have been on the periphery previously. Mr. Mills.
Going along with what was said earlier and what you said, I mean, I would think probably maybe the proper way to handle that situation possibly would be, again, if you have we call it a car allowance or expense allowance or whatever, and you cap it at a certain dollar amount per, if you want to say mandatory regional board position or meeting that, is that the council would agree that the mayor would need to participate on. And so then if they're not attending those meetings or they're not doing that, then they wouldn't receive, that expense or allowance or something. But I can see that, and even those, what's going on right now, that could morph and change in another 2 or 3 years. And so just like any job description, most of the time, the compensation needs to fit the description of the duties, just like we do with our city employees. And what Councilman Albo had said, again, unless we're actually going to change some of the wording of the descriptions or duties of the mayor, and have that tied to that compensation.
That's the complication of the position, though. I mean, it's more complicated than the way you're trying to describe it, and even yours is a little bit complicated in and of itself. But I think, I'm not trying to advocate for myself. I do intend to run again, but I'm not trying to advocate for myself. But it does lend to the morphing of responsibility and the growth of our communities for some kind of consideration. Now, I did notice in here there were vehicle allowances that are part of the compensation package for some of those mayors. But I don't know if that's something that the council would consider. We don't have the luxury of the county where the state sets their salaries. We have to do it ourselves here. And they're self-regulated, so to speak. So I know it's just my 2 cents worth. Mr. Burke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some of the changes that you're mentioning, Councilman Mills, would probably go to the level of the Charter Review Committee, which would probably be coming up in 2 or 3 years to 3, okay? And so if you're wanting to worry about the changes that are going to come in a few years, well, we're going to be addressing that. Someone is going to be addressing it. Some group of, some committee will do that. And then it'll go to the voters, like the last time. But of course, we can do, small changes within it, but some of those actual job descriptions come to that level.
Mr. Baker?
I will kind of say, since, I got involved with Raymore, I would say we kind of limit ourselves who can run for mayor. I know myself, I would not be running for mayor now because I work 10, 12-hour days, 45 minutes away, and that consumes Monday through Friday. I do think you have to be in a unique position to run for mayor. I mean, you pretty much have to have an open schedule, somewhat retired, or you have to have a personal business in the community where you're available really Monday through Friday during daytime hours. Much, like the Chamber of Commerce, most of those open houses are during the day, during lunch, and many of us do not work in Raymore. We cannot attend those events out here, and I think we lose a lot of firepower. When we had the mural unveiling on a Saturday evening, that allowed more people to participate that were actually home and in the community, which, and I know we've talked about, I've had some conversations with Councilman Holman that we're almost at the point where I know we talk about duties, but really is the mayor, I know it would take time, but is the mayor really a more of a full-time position? And I know maybe that's something down the road we look at that, if who's next after you, if it's in 3 years or whatever it may be, are we going to come to that point in our city or some of these other cities, they probably are more of a full-time role and someone that could make a decision in life that I'm going to make this my dedicated, job, and I hate to say income because I don't think, a lot of us do this for income. I do think there's some inequalities with the council because I didn't see Belton listed, and I know they're a little bit higher than what we do in meeting on a regular schedule. So I would say that I do think for what you do, having an outline thing, we're kind of in that gray area now. Is it an all or nothing? And it's very difficult for people to meet the schedule you do unless you're at the point of, being
Well, I wouldn't say it's an all. I mean, it's not a full-time position. It is not. That's his job.
I think the availability.
I'm ceremonial in nature, and I take a lot of load off of him by reporting back what all these boards and commissions report back to me. That's who I give that information to for operational purposes. But to say that there would be a requirement for a full-time position may require a charter change. And I don't think you're wanting to do that, not the kind of status that we have now with a strong manager form of government. I think then if you ever turned it into a full-time job, I think you could see a quagmire occurring operationally in the city where there is a fine line of delineation between the mayor's role and responsibility and that of the manager. And I would never want to blur that in any way, shape, or form. We know who leads the operations. We're a policy board. Sonia?
And that's my point exactly, is you could work a 40, 60-hour week, 45 minutes away, and still be elected the mayor here and just not fill the same shoes that our current mayor is filling. And so that's my biggest hesitation with increasing the salary is I would love to increase it for the work you do, but to increase it for whoever comes along next who may not do that same work because it's not required of him. He does it because it's the right thing to do, and I hope that our citizens wouldn't elect someone who wouldn't be able to do that same thing, but there's nothing that says that they won't or they can't, and so it would really be painful to watch someone be paid more money to do what they're actually required to do.
Mr. Holm?
Another thing, another facet of this is the,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
oh, yeah, so you spent an inordinate amount of time traveling in the last 2 years with the landfill issue, and we've finished that issue. Great work. I don't think that's going to completely fall off the table. Not landfill, but I think our demands of what we need as a city go beyond our borders, and that's going to be something that's going to be required of a mayor, whether that's you or someone else, into the future. For example, transportation needs, I-49, the 58 corridor, the Lucy Webb flyover, that's going to continue. Our city continues to grow and expand, and I think there's going to be, I don't think we're going to stay stoic. I think the demands on the mayoral position will grow over time. To that end, Sonia and I disagree. I respect her opinion, certainly. I would ask we settle it with an up or down vote of the council. I'm proposing $1,500 a month, and I'll abide by whatever the final vote is if we'll settle that.
Okay. Mr. Circo.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I noticed that our city to the west of us wasn't on here, Belton.
They didn't respond, sir.
They didn't respond, okay. And I also noticed, a lot when you start looking at the sizes of some of these cities, the influx of volume of finances and money that comes into their budgets because they're extremely larger and they pay more money because they've had more money in their budget to do so. I notice a lot of them, though, only work, which I don't mind being heavy money, but I notice a lot of it is twice a month. Some of these bigger cities are making more money, but they're only twice a month. So that's kind of conceiving. I mean, you look at that deceiving. It's like, wow, really? But a lot of these are bigger cities, a lot more volume of people, a lot more money access into the budgets. They pay more. So when we're looking at demographics for our city, 25,000 to these people, you jump into 50, 60,000, 70, then the money changes. They have more allowance. They have more volume of finances to make more raises and money. So this, to me, it's kind of there and that, but with the bigger cities, it kind of takes away from more of our smallers like us, what we do financially, the money we bring into our city, which we can afford to pay through a budget time. Yeah, but I was noticing that a lot of it is twice a month, and I was kind of surprised at that.
So, we have on the floor a direction for an up or down vote on an issue. How would we handle that?
If there's a request to put something on the
Mr.
agenda.
Zer, do you want to take that? I don't think we.
We don't make motions in seconds at work
Yeah,
sessions.
it's a work session. You're not able to take any legislative action this evening. If anything is going to be done, it's going to be on an agenda item for
They
next
could be
week.
at the request of one council person, correct?
We have always allowed that, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
I've made the request.
Okay.
It's usually you, but
Usually me.
Yeah, you decide if it goes on. Lucky.
That seems so self-serving.
I'm asking for it. Make it better.
Well, we'll put it on there and see where it goes. Could get modified, could get amended, could die, get amended. Go away. We have done that before. Yeah. Anybody care to voice an opinion one way or the other? I would not be in high favor of that. Okay. Giving an indication as to what the goal would be. Okay. All right. All right. Well, we'll put it on the agenda.
very good, sir.
I'm not prepared on item C this evening for board and commission appointments, so is there any item under other that we need to bring up?
No, sir.
Mr. Mills, did you have something?
I just had a question on boards and commissions. I was reviewing that this afternoon, that who was served and where the openings were and stuff. And I guess it's just a point of order or question. Are we only allowed to recommend people that live in our wards, or are we allowed to recommend people we know that live in another ward? How does that?
Or that, for that particular ward appointment?
Yes.
Sonia, did you have something?
Share my input. You can always, if you know someone anywhere in the city who might be interested in volunteering, encourage them to fill out that volunteer form. And then my next step possibly would be then shoot an email to the mayor and say, hey, my friend so-and-so, or someone in my neighborhood, so-and-so is really interested in
We've
this
gotten that
board.
before.
Yeah, so, I mean, filling out the application form is the first step, and you can encourage anyone in the city to fill out that form.
Yeah, if any council member has personal knowledge of an individual that you feel would be a great fit for the city, a lot of my input comes from staff. They'll vet them, they'll interview them, they'll talk to other board members who might know this individual who's expressed interest, but we have to have a volunteer application on file for them to express their interest, and that's really, I go from that cut list. Okay. Well, there's nothing further? Nobody has anything other to bring up? We will be adjourned. Thank you.